we go. 6.9, consideration of an update on county economic development and housing initiatives. Lisa Judd and Ben Rickelman, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Board. Ben Rickelman, Deputy County Administrative Officer. We're here to provide an update on our economic development and housing initiatives that are currently underway. So this is a long list, but we'll try to do it in an efficient manner. Working through the design phase of the economic development and housing website. So this will have several different features we think will be a real asset to the community. Among those is kind of just explaining the ecosystem of different business support organizations, resources available for starting and growing a business, possible sources of capital. We're also going to have a map of both kind of where there's development activity, potential development activity, where there's projects in the pipeline, and then also a map just highlighting the different communities in Lake County for outside audiences. And then there's also going to be a housing component of the website. Do you want to take that?
As we went over last week, there's a housing action and implementation plan, and really that plan is a springboard for a whole lot of work for us to dig in deep and really make some changes, and including the completion of the housing site analysis, creating a developer-friendly atmosphere, which includes some of those the housing web pages. That's going to be part of that. And also another component is that we're working on this in the next year will be attaining the pro housing designation, which has so many wonderful benefits for housing. And then there's the creation of the housing rehabilitation program, looking at that and different opportunities that we have. And then last, we cannot forget the Lake County Regional Housing Trust Fund. We're still working on that and getting the administrative guidelines finished and our board of trustees, and using that as a real resource and tool so that we can further our housing in Lake County.
Do something. Oh, there we go. Just to touch on these other projects then too. So working with the departments that handle large capital projects, public services, public works, and special districts on a capital improvement plan. So putting into plan documents kind of what these projects would require and what stage they're in, if they're still in planning or if they're in active development. Another project is we'll be shortly issuing an RFQ regarding microgrids for communities in Lake County. I know there's been several discussions with the board regarding energy cost, and this might be a solution, at least for parts of the county. So we'll see what we can do there with outside partners. Another project I'm working on with several different partners is the Heart Hub. So this is the healthcare workforce development center. There's three components. There's curriculum being built out from roughly 5th to 12th grade to engage students on different medical career pathways. And then there's going to be a continuing education for people who are already in the field, or adults interested. And there'll be a simulation lab. So it should be a pretty exciting project. There is a lease now executed for the site that is across from Sutter Lakeside. There is a request with Senator Padilla, so we might secure some congressional funding, which would be great. And I'm currently working on Economic Development Administration disaster supplemental funding for the equipment for the space. As brought up a few weeks ago with Jeff Lucas from Community Development Services, we anticipate an upcoming notice of funding availability with the Community Development Block Grant that can be used for economic development or housing, we believe. That's what the last one was. So we're still waiting for the NOFA to be released. This would be the first one under this administration. so there might be some changes. But we're getting some signals from the state that they anticipate the NOFA will be released in September, so we'll see. But whenever it's released, we'll be coming back to the board with a specific program of proposed activities. And then the last one, which is new, so with Lake County's fragmented water and sewer network, and it's just, I've heard with some development projects, and this is a general California issue too, is just the upfront costs for putting projects together with impact fees and development fees. What some communities in California have done is a fee deferral program for qualified projects. So for some communities, it's just commercial and industrial projects of certain size. Some communities also do affordable housing. And how it works is they pay a portion of the impact fee up front, and then through a few subsequent years, they pay a portion. So a common setup is like 25% initially, and then the next 3 years they're paying 25%. And the attraction to the company or whoever's developing is because there's so much pre-development work here and the timelines are somewhat uncertain, you're at least generating some income before you're having to pay this. So further discussions with special districts, and then we'll come back to the board to present some options for further consideration. So this is a table, just going a little bit more detail, kind of anticipated targeted completion for some of these projects, and then where it stands with funding for some of them. This is just going a little bit more, as I spoke to before, on the economic development website and housing website, and some of the tools and resources we will be featuring. Just again, Karen Pavoni took some great photos, and some of these are provided by the companies too, that I think will be a really good showcase for Lake County and kind of tell a story that really isn't out there, that's easily accessible at the moment on the internet. This is a proposed project sheet for the CIP. So this would be for an individual project, as you've probably seen with other communities' capital improvement plans. So it provides the time frame, where the funding's coming from, and how the funding's being allocated for the project itself. This is just a battery storage system that is part of a microgrid. So the picture on the left is one of Sutter's simulation labs. Sutter's one of the biggest partners on this project. And then, so something like this would be in the Heart Hub. And then on the right is just the blue rectangle is the property where the Heart Hub will be and where the lease has been executed. So they're doing some work with legal on the curriculum side, but then also they're going to start doing some work on the design side of the space. And as long as I'm up here, there's been some interesting developments legislatively regarding economic development on both the federal and the state level. So on the federal level, with the recently passed H.R. 1, the reconciliation bill, opportunity zones were made permanent in the federal tax code. And a very high level way of explaining opportunity zones is you're basically incentivizing the allocation of capital gains through the tax code. It doesn't necessarily have to be commercial real estate development, but that's what it's overwhelmingly been. I think that's mostly because of the tax benefits. So there is some interesting changes. I guess just time frame wise, So the existing opportunity zones, I believe there's 2 in Clear Lake at the moment. Those will now sunset at the end of calendar year 2028. And then for the new ones, the governor's office still has the full discretion of making those where the OZs can be for eligible census tracts. The governor's office is supposed to make that decision by the beginning of July 2026, and then they'll be active the beginning calendar year of 2027. They have a separate rural opportunity zone fund with this legislation that provides 2 decent advantages for rural investment. One is the step up in basis. Do we know what? So step up in basis is what the fair market value will be taxed at. So like if you inherit a piece of property and let's say the previous owner, the valuation went from 300 to 600,000, and then under your ownership it went to 600 to 650,000. You're only taxed on the capital gain of the 600 to 650,000. The 3 to 6 is stepped up in basis. So when capital gains are rolled over into a opportunity zone fund, that stepped up in basis will be 30% for rural tracts, which all of Lake County qualifies, compared to 10% in urban. And then another change that's important for rural is with the existing program, it has to be 100% substantial improvement. So that means the value of the investment has to transform it at least 100% in value. So that usually means new construction. You can't really do, most renovations aren't going to increase value by 100%. Whereas with the new rural OZs, you can do 50% improvement. So if it's a significant renovation of an existing property, it should work. So there is a dynamic map you can find online, or I can send out to people, that has the new OZs mapped, but this is a picture of it. So those, I shouldn't say the new OZs, I should say eligible census tracts for OZ designation. So those orange census tracts are ones that could be designated, and of those orange ones, 25% will be designated. So what I've seen in the past is opportunity zones won't in of themselves induce development, but it's a strong kind of layer to make that decision. And the county doesn't have any formal power in designation, but I think it would be a good idea to put some thought into tracks we think would be a good choice for the governor's office.
So 25% of the eligible
Correct.
precincts in the county. So
In the state.
in the state. Okay, that's what I want to make sure, because we have so many, not all, but many in the county, but we still have to be competitive.
Correct.
So what percentage of the eligible tracts in our county do you think we should prioritize?
I think it's more just what's in the individual tracks and is there potential projects, and could this kind of tip the balance of something actually happening instead of maybe just a nominal number.
Okay,
And,
that makes sense.
and then making that argument to the governor's office why this specific track is a good idea for selection.
Perfect. And what's the time frame for that?
So there hasn't, when I worked on it, when the program came out, the initial round, I mean, there wasn't anything public. It was just kind of conversation. That was in a different state, but just conversations with the governor's office to make it. But the law says the governor is supposed to make the designation the beginning of July 2026.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Bruno.
Yeah, Thank you for talking about this. I knew there was a version 2.0 coming in, and just to let you know, when the first maps came out, I was proud then, maybe not so proud here, but we did steal the city of Clear Lake. I worked with the city manager to write a letter saying we should be designated an extra and took one away from the county. So there can be changes made. So I would say advocacy will still exist, and that we need to be on top of it to make sure that we retain what we get, or make sure that we have what we need.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I guess the one other thing I'll say is they did tighten up the income. So it was before, now 80% below median family income for the state, and now it's 70%. Our census tract has at least 20% in the poverty rate and not above 100, I believe, 20% of median family income for the state. So with the state budget bill recently passed, there was some measures that pertain to both housing and economic development. I'm not going to cover them all, just ones I think have strong interest here. So AB 130, this exempts, and this is both for market rate and affordable, there's been a lot of CEQA exemption for housing just for affordable social housing. So this is both. It won't have a major impact in the unincorporated areas of Lake County because it's only for incorporated areas and then what the census calls urban areas. And we do have a little bit of that in Lake County, in Nice, in Clear Lake Rivieras. But one of the stipulations with the law is it excludes parcels that are in the very high fire threat severity. So that,
Boom.
yeah. But it could spur housing production, which would still be beneficial to the county-wide economy and quality of life within the cities. And then SB 131, which was also part of the state's budget, had several other CEQA exemptions. I think of particular importance to the county, wildfire risk mitigation projects, broadband. So all the companies that are working on both the middle mile and the federal funding account last mile projects are they're aware of this and I believe utilizing it. And then advanced manufacturing, we do actually have a company, I don't think they necessarily need a secret, but I didn't ask them to say it publicly. If you have an area zone industrial, and it is fairly targeted to what I would consider truly advanced manufacturing, but they're looking at an additional building facility that this will help. And this was presented last week, and certain policies and information will be on the website too that reflect it. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, I'll open it up for public. You do have one?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So you gave a laundry list of things. Do you have a specific priority? Like, I don't know, I'm thinking like building a house, you build a foundation and the walls. Are you looking at specific priorities as to what can propel other economic development rather than just focusing on all those things all at once?
Yeah, so just we'll be wrapping up the website soon. I think that's important to have that platform out for both locally and for a wider audience, so people get a much better feel what's possible in Lake County and what can happen. And we can also then create materials off that pretty easily, which I can use. I plan to be going attending site selection conferences more in the upcoming year, so both ICSC in Las Vegas and Monterey. And then also just one-on-one conversations with developers out of market, primarily in Sacramento and the Bay Area. Also then, I think the kind of the secondary priority is the EDA application, just because that project is moving ahead and the lease is signed. And I think it's a really big opportunity for the county.
And my second question for you is, you had mentioned, I'm looking up just to see if I'm not misconstruing with others, the potential reduction in commercial developments like fee deferrals. Is that also a concept you're looking at for residential? Because again, we could add all the commercial developments if we wanted to, but if there's not a pool of employees to pull from, we need housing for, just like if we expand, we need housing for those that we hire. Just kind of curious if that's also within that range and not just commercial developments.
I think that's a discussion with the board and with special districts. I think it's a great idea, but I think it's more just figuring out how to target it. So other communities in California, they do maybe a residential development of a certain size. I think just also because of the administrative burden. But yeah, I think it's definitely something we'll pursue.
And then my last comment is more of a seeing if there's consensus from the board or even a comment from yourself. All of the listed economic development topics, is there a way to get a concept of how many jobs do we anticipate to create and how much the return on the investment might be based on other concepts in other areas, just to kind of get a glimpse as to what we should anticipate?
I mean, I could put something together. It might be hard to kind of tie it all together. So with like the Heart Hub, we can, I think, put a pretty quantitative case together how this is going to impact the medical industry here and economic impact. And then with the deferral program, we can look at other communities. I mean, it's always kind of art, kind of science, what made them pull the trigger and make that investment. But we can look at developments tied to those programs and see maybe what's potential. I know there's a few properties here where that does seem to be kind of the hang up, is the impact fees for anything moving forward. So yeah, I think there is a way to quantify it.
That would be great. I would love to see that, just to kind of help me better understand what the impacts will be.
On where it says create a developer-friendly atmosphere, from what aspect? County or community? I mean, I know that we can't control how the community feels about it, but how do we? I know you're probably speaking about our county being more friendly towards developers. Is there a way to mix it in with having some guidelines or some benchmarks that help with community engagement and community friendly types of atmospheres as well?
I'm just going to answer it from the housing perspective.
Yes.
So we did a lot of developer engagement when we did the community engagement piece, and we really heard from the developers that they really want to know up front if there's any costs or things they don't want to know when they're farther down the pipeline. Mm-hmm. Point of contact would be a wonderful thing that I've heard from them as well, so they're not trying to deal with so many entities and being frustrated. So if we can get the message out that, we want development here in Lake County and we're easy to work with, and developer friendly is what we're looking for, through a bunch of, like you said, outreach to those developers that we know are here in the county and others that might come in, with our web page to have resources like the interactive web map so they can look in and see what criteria they're looking for when they're building. Just all those things to make it streamlined, make it easier for them, and have a better experience.
And I'm just diving into this because that would be great. It's just once it gets into project mode, we have people that want to appeal or have issues and want to bring it to a public forum. So that's what I'm really getting to. I want to be able to, think ahead and get ahead of that curve as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I will say, so when I've worked on larger projects elsewhere, sometimes there's been a specific assigned point of contact in the agencies or departments handling the development process. So I mean, that's a policy that could be, it could be, you know, every development, it could be developments of certain size or type. And I've seen a lot of value in that.
Thanks. I'm just trying to get ahead of that curve because I understand and hope that we can get to that point of developing. We just have to have a unique balance when it comes to the project and the permit status. So, any other questions? Oh, sorry, Vice Chair.
I was just going to comment, I like the possible fee deferral program as well, because I think it's another aspect of being able to make it more attractive for people. Maybe it's easier for them to get started and they can pay some of those fees later. So I think that's definitely something we should keep looking at.
I thought you put your pen back up. Sorry.
Just reaching for my mic, hanging on.
I'll open it up for public comment. Please come on up if you have a comment.
Nancy Rosica. Ben, have you ever heard of Arrow Acres? Okay, good. Because Workrite Products was going to go to the Napa airport. They had been operating in some old, I think they were pear packing sheds in Findlay. And their first big contract when they decided to develop the frameless shower door was with Hyatt Hotels. So to this day, if you go to a Hyatt hotel or you live in an older home, maybe it was Brad, you told me that you had a Workrite shower door. I've got a Workrite shower door in my house. The road on the south, I guess it'd be the southwest side of the airport. Here, I'm a pilot. I'm not active now, so I don't remember exactly what the heading was on that. But anyway, it's like a freeway out there. And we have one business out there. It was a spa manufacturer after Workrite was bought by a Kansas firm and moved the business to Kansas. Anyway, it needs water and sewer out there. Is there money to put water and sewer in a previously planned industrial development site? I mean, Ester Formula has just spent what I would imagine is a fortune on upgrading their leach field and their septic system. And they've had a permit in the planning department, I think it was since January. And I don't know, maybe Brad knows, if they've gotten their permits so they can ship their products. Anyway, let's keep that in mind. What sites are available around the county? And what happened with Ester Formula, they sent a man to this country who had lived in London a long time. He was Korean. And he started on the East Coast and looked at sites in New Jersey, maybe it was Tennessee, and Texas, and ended up here in Lake County. And when he drove in, he was like Brigham Young coming to Salt Lake City. Wow, this is the place. As he came across. And they bought that building. And it's been an uphill battle. So let's make sure we are truly business friendly. I attended a couple of GONOC presentations and I was appalled that it's taken them 5 years. I think the first thing that should have been done, and I'll tell the Planning Commission this soon, maybe if I have the guts to, I feel like I know all you better to say this, but who would want to own a house, an expensive house in a new development on Butte Canyon Road? Come on now, you know. There's a project in Nebraska that was called Devil's Nest, and only people in the immediate area knew the history of Devil's Nest. That's where the James boys hung out. And the sheriff in Yankton, South Dakota said, hey, let the devils stay in their nest. Well, first thing Cliff and I did, advising the Omaha National Bank, and later we bought it for them for pennies on the dollar and sold it off in parts, including one vineyard, was let's change the name, and we started calling it just The Nest. Who would want to build the main road with the most beautiful views was Devil's Rim Drive. So let's kind of look at some of these things, especially when people first come into the planning department. We need to do some marketing that will attract people from the Bay Area to bring their big dollars up. You can't buy a condo in East Bay for less than $1 million. I just saw that this weekend. So anyway,
Nancy.
I just hope you'll remember Arrow Acres. I worked on it for many years, and before I die, I'd like to see something out there besides just the work right building. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Uh,
Go ahead.
So a few comments on that. Yeah, I think it'd be a great area for development. There is the Economic Development Administration's Public Works, which is a bit of a misnomer on the name, but they will do water and sewer for industrial area, but it has to be tied to direct job creation or retention. So we need an interested private sector partner to come in. But if there is one available and it fits for the community, that's definitely funding we could pursue to provide water and sewer through the EDA. And yes, totally agree with the Esther formula major use permit. Checking in with community development again to see when that will be scheduled with the Planning Commission. And then I believe we're also pursuing California Competes competitive through the state income tax credit with them which I think will be beneficial.
All right. Yep, come on up.
Good afternoon, Chair Crandall, Vice Chair Rasmussen, and supervisors. Margot Kambara, Lake County resident. The interest in microgrids from the administrative office is very promising. Bravo. Where would the community find information on the microgrids in terms of preferred locations or criteria for location? This information is particularly of interest to the General Plan Advisory Committee and the Local Area Plan Committee members. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to mention I'm on the General Plan Advisory Committee. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as part of the CDBG economic development, NOFA, our thought is as part of the submittal, there's a bucket that can be used for planning. So we would apply for a microgrid analysis to look at different communities, kind of what is the needs, what's the possibility, what are possible sites where you could put storage systems and solar arrays. So that's one possibility, and we'll explore others too.
Thanks, man. Any other public comment, maybe on Zoom? Betsy, please unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Betsy Kahn for the Essential Public Information Center. Nancy, you inspire me. The issues you brought up are so politely and gently are reflective of my concerns. When I first came here, the county had invested almost $1 million in a marketing plan, and I've been hearing over and over and over and over and over and over again that we'll figure out how to put sewer and water out there at the airport. You have already somewhere in the bowels of the dungeon downstairs, the records of the old CDD, you have 4 or 5 key areas of the county that were designated through marketing analyses for focused development. The Nice Lucerne cutoff, the airport area, I really don't know the proper name that Nancy used for the area, but that whole area there, Kelseyville in its local area plan committee spoke about wanting to develop industrial capacities or light industrial capacities. You've certainly got the city of Clear Lake, which has lots of development needs. So it's not like you don't have this information. And I really, some of the answers that Mr. Rickleman crafts on the spot, and knowing that he's on the spot, I forgive him, but some of them really don't contain any solid information. It's something that the board, gets hung up on all the time. Plus the issues around the water, which you heard about earlier, and the concerns that the general plan has there are many, many concerns that you should be addressing. So I'm sorry, I'm not satisfied that this is doing anything more than just treading water. The last comment I want to make, and please forgive me, but I have to tell you this, those colors, that green and that pink, they are horrible. You should just simply have somebody pick colors that knows how to do that. Otherwise, great presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments on Zoom? All right, if there's no more public comment, I'll bring it back to the board. Any final thoughts?
Looking up the colors.
Him too.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you
all
for
the
this
work.
presentation and for the information. All right,
Thank you.
all right.